Have you ever stopped to consider that everything you've been taught about money might be completely wrong? What if I told you that what takes you 12 months to earn could be achieved in just 30 days? Sounds absurd, right? I thought so too, until it happened to me. I was broke, drowning in debt, and honestly believed I had no chance, at least that's what I thought. But there's a method so powerful that almost no one knows about. And today I'm going to show you exactly why everything you've believed about wealth is nothing but a big lie. How many times have you heard the phrase, study hard, work hard, and the money will come? I heard it my whole life. Tell me, did it work for you? Did it work for the people you know? Because I look around and see people who studied for years, went to college, dedicated themselves to jobs for decades, and still can't pay their bills without worry. And when they do have some money left over, it's so little that it doesn't change anything at all in their lives. That's exactly how I lived for a long time. At 26, I was in debt. I earned about $4,000 a year and owed $6,000. If I took every penny I earned, it would still take me a year and a half to break even. Now think with me. How many people do you know who work hard and still live paycheck to paycheck? Maybe it's you. Don't you think that's unfair? I did. Because I believed the solution was to work harder, to strive harder. But I was wrong, completely wrong. No one ever taught me that working hard isn't synonymous with getting rich. In fact, the system is designed for you to believe that. School teaches you to read, write, count, but it never teaches you how to make money. Have you noticed that? They teach you to save, to conserve, to invest, but never to create wealth. Why? Because that knowledge is reserved for a select few. And you know what's worse? I believed the problem was with me, that I was unlucky, didn't have enough education, didn't have opportunities. How many times have you felt that way? How many times have you looked at someone who has succeeded in life and thought, they got lucky, it's not for me? I thought exactly that, until one day everything changed. When I understood that the first lie they tell us is this: working hard is no guarantee of anything, because if it were, the people who work the hardest would be the richest. Now look at the world. Who are the richest? Are they the ones who work 12 hours a day at a job they hate? Or are they those who have learned to create systems, ideas, and businesses that generate money even while they're sleeping? That's the point. As long as you're trading time for money, you're trapped. Because time is limited. A day has 24 hours for everyone. So no matter how hard you try, there will always be a ceiling. And that's why most people never get anywhere. They work, they get tired, they get old, and they reach the end of their lives without having lived what they truly desired. Now, I want you to think about something. If nothing changes in your life today, how long will it take you to achieve your dreams? 10 years, 20 years, or maybe never? That's hard to hear, but it's the reality for most. And that's why you need to break this cycle. And do you know how that starts? By changing the way you think about money, because it all begins in the mind. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was tired, discouraged, without prospects, and honestly, I believed my life was doomed. Until someone asked me a simple question: do you believe you can change? And at that moment, something inside me answered, I don't know, but I want to try. Maybe that's what you're feeling now. And that's good, because that's exactly where it all begins. So I want you to do something today. Before you go to sleep, write this question on a piece of paper. What can I do to make money without depending solely on my time? It seems simple, but it's one of the most powerful questions you'll ever ask yourself, because it will open up space for ideas you've never considered before. Do this for 7 days in a row, without skipping any. And I promise you'll start to see opportunities that have always been there, but you've never noticed. Now let me tell you something. I didn't get smarter. I didn't go back to school. I didn't take any magic course. All I did was understand how wealth really works and apply it. And the first thing I learned was this: working hard isn't enough. Working smart is what changes everything. Are you ready for this? Because if you are, prepare to unlearn much of what you've believed your whole life. Because that's how transformation begins. Imagine a river. On one side, the current carries you upwards, towards wealth. On the other, the current pulls you downwards, towards scarcity, towards poverty. Now tell me, which side are you on? This image marked me forever when I first heard it, because it describes exactly the lives of most people. And I ask, do you feel like you're being carried upwards towards your dreams, or are you stuck in a tide that only leads you to bills, debts, and worries? The truth is harsh, but I need to say it. Most are on the wrong side. And you know what's worse? They don't even realize it. People live on autopilot. They wake up, they work, they pay bills, they complain about the lack of money, and they repeat this every day. Isn't that strange? How many people do you know who live like that? Maybe you yourself. Have you ever stopped to think why this happens? I'll tell you, it all starts in the mind. Yes, that's right. It's not the government, it's not the salary, it's not the lack of luck. It's what you believe, what you think every day. I know it seems too simple to be true, but I lived it. And when I understood, everything changed. When I was broke, I saw no way out. I earned $4,000 a year and owed $6,000. I had no education, no opportunities. My life seemed doomed, and I believed it was like that forever, until one day someone gave me a book and said, if you do exactly what's in here, you can have everything you want. I didn't believe it. But you know what I thought? He believes it, so why not try? And that's what I did. I started to change the way I thought. I stopped seeing myself as a victim and started seeing myself as someone who could choose. And that's where this river metaphor comes in. I simply switched sides. I was on the side that was dragging me down, and I decided to row to the other side. And you know what? It wasn't luck, it was a decision. Now, I want you to reflect. Which is your side today? Because if you're on the wrong side, you already know what the result is. Worry, frustration, accumulated bills, shelved dreams, and if nothing changes, life will continue like this. That's what hurts the most. It's not today's difficulties, it's imagining what it will be like in 10 years if nothing changes. But there's another side, a side where the current works in your favor, where ideas appear, opportunities arise, money flows. It seems like magic, but it's not. It's mindset, because the two sides of this river are formed by emotions. Positive ones lift you up, negative ones sink you. Now tell me, which emotions have you been feeding yourself lately? Worry, fear, doubt, or confidence, gratitude, certainty? I know you might think, but how am I going to feel confident if everything is going wrong? And I understand you. I thought that too. But I'll tell you a secret. I started to change before things changed. I started thinking wealth when I was still broke, and that's what made the difference. So here's what I want you to do. For the next 7 days, start your day thinking this: I choose to be on the right side of the river. Repeat this to yourself. Sounds silly, it's not. Because when you start affirming something, your mind starts looking for ways to make it real. And that's how it all begins. Now imagine the feeling of finally feeling the current in your favor. Imagine waking up and knowing that every day you're closer to what you desire. This isn't a distant dream, it's a decision. The decision to change the side of the river where you are. And it starts today. Everything in the universe works by laws, and money is no exception. There's a law that governs how much you earn, and most people have never heard of it. It's the law of compensation. When I discovered this, everything made sense, because until that moment, I believed that my income was determined by my boss, by the company I worked for, by the economy, or even by my luck. But it's none of that. The law of compensation says that the amount of money you earn will be directly proportional to three things: the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty in replacing you. Now stop for a moment and think about this. In which of these 3 points are you failing? Because probably the first one is already solved. If you have a job, there is some need for what you do, but that's not enough. What really matters are the other 2 factors, your ability and the difficulty of replacing you. And you know what the reality is? Most people never think about this. They believe that it's enough to show up for work and do the minimum to avoid being fired. But I'll be direct. If anyone can do what you do, you'll never make a lot of money. It's hard to hear this, I know, but it's the truth. And as long as you continue to be someone easy to replace, you'll live struggling for the minimum. I learned this the hard way. At the beginning of my career, I didn't have any special skills. I was just another one in the crowd. And guess what? I was paid like everyone else in the crowd. One day, I decided that if I wanted to change my life, I needed to become indispensable. I needed to be someone who delivered more, knew more, and performed better. And that's exactly what I did. Now tell me, what have you done to make yourself irreplaceable? Because if you're only doing the bare minimum, you're digging your own pit of stagnation. There's no magic here. It's not luck, it's competence. The better you are at what you do, the harder it will be for someone to take your place. And this applies to any field. Want an example? Think of the great athletes, the great artists, the great entrepreneurs. They're not just good, they're exceptional. And that's why they receive what they receive. Now, before you think, but I'm not famous, this isn't for me, I want to remind you that this law works for everyone. You don't need to be a global star, but you do need to be a star in your field. And here's something I want you to write down right now. Money always flows towards excellence. Always. There are no exceptions. So if you're not growing financially, it's because you've stopped growing personally. Now let me tell you something I did that could change everything for you. I developed the habit of improving a little bit every day. Just a little. Not a giant leap. Not a radical change all at once. Just a little. A book I read, a class I took, a skill I practiced, and over time, it made me a completely different person. So here's your challenge. For the next 90 days, choose a skill that has market value, something that can increase your wealth-generating capacity, and work on it every day. Even if it's only for 15 minutes, do this for 90 days, and then tell me if your life remains the same. I doubt it, because the law of compensation is clear. You don't need to fight for money. You need to fight to become better at what you do. And when you become better, the money comes to you. Always. Now tell me, are you willing to do this? Or will you continue complaining about life, hoping something will change on its own? Because I'll tell you this, nothing will change until you change. And that starts now. Do you want to know why 96% of people never get rich? Because they make the same mistake every day. They trade time for money. That's the M1 strategy. And let me be very clear. It never worked, doesn't work, and never will work. Why? Because time is the most limited resource there is. You have 24 hours in a day. I have 24 hours in a day. We all do. If you base your income solely on the time you work, there will always be a ceiling you cannot surpass. I believed this lie for a long time. I spent years thinking that the solution was to work more hours, do overtime, take a second job. And do you know what the result was? I became more tired, more stressed, and still broke. How many people do you know who live exactly like that? They work all day, come home exhausted, and still can't pay all their bills? It's the majority. Now I want you to think about this. If you continue trading time for money, what will happen to you in 10 years? Will you be earning a little more? Maybe. But will you be living better? Will you have freedom? Or will you be even more trapped, without energy, without health, and without time to enjoy anything? Because deep down, that's what happens to those who follow this path. I know this is hard to hear, but it's the reality for 96% of the population. This is the trap that keeps people in mediocrity. And the worst part is that the system encourages it. They say, study to get a good job, work hard, do overtime. As if that were going to lead you to financial freedom. It won't. It never will. And there's another detail that almost nobody notices. The more you depend on your time, the more vulnerable you are. Because if something happens, an illness, a layoff, any unforeseen event, your income disappears. It's like building a house on sand. A strong tide and everything crumbles. So I need you to understand this. There are only 3 strategies for making money. The first is M1, trading time for money. It's the strategy of the majority, and it's the worst of all. The second is M2, investing money to make money. A good strategy, but it only works for those who already have capital, and even then it requires knowledge. And the third, which I call M3, is the only one that truly leads to freedom, creating multiple streams of income. Now tell me, which of these 3 are you in? Because if you're in the first, it's time to get out of it now. Not tomorrow, not a year from now. Because every day you stay trapped in this model, you're selling the most precious asset you have, your time, for a price that will never reflect your true worth. When I understood this, my life changed. I discovered that the richest people in the world don't work more hours than you. In fact, many work less. The difference is that they don't depend on a single stream of income. They multiply their time through systems, partnerships, businesses that continue generating money even while they're sleeping. And here's the question I want you to carry with you for the rest of the day. How can I make money while I sleep? Sounds crazy. I thought so too. But today, it's the rule. With the internet, with digital businesses, with the global economy, it's never been easier to create multiple streams of income. The only thing missing for most people is the decision. Now I want you to do a simple exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 ideas that could generate extra income for you without relying on more hours of work. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to know all the details now. Just write. Because change begins when you stop accepting the old strategy and decide to think differently. I'll tell you something that might shock you. 1% of the population uses the M3 strategy and gets 96% of all the money in the world. It's not because they're smarter. Some aren't even. It's because they understood how the game works. They don't sell time. They create systems. So I ask you, will you continue selling the only resource you can't recover, your time, or will you start creating something that works even when you're not working? This decision is the line that separates those who live complaining about their salary and those who achieve freedom. And the good news is that you can start today. You don't have to quit everything. You don't have to take absurd risks. Start small, but start. Because the sooner you get out of the M1 strategy, the faster you'll move to the 4% who really understand how wealth works. Now tell me, are you ready to break this chain and stop trading life for money? Because the choice is yours. It always has been. Look around you. The world has changed completely. But do you know what the problem is? Most people still think as if they were living 50 years ago. They continue following an outdated manual, a manual that said study, get a good job, work hard, retire, and live happily. But that doesn't exist anymore. It didn't work well before, and today, it's impossible. Want a reality check? A few decades ago, one person could support an entire family with a single salary. Today, how many families do you know that need 2 people working and, even then, barely manage to pay the bills? And do you know why? Because they're playing a game that no longer exists. Alvin Toffler said something I never forgot. The illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is brutally true. Because everything you've learned about money, career, security simply doesn't apply anymore. And if you don't unlearn these old beliefs and learn the new rules, you'll be left behind. Now stop and think with me. How many things have changed in the last 20 years? Remember when there was no internet, when a cell phone was a luxury, when nobody talked about social networks? Today, people are making millions with something that didn't even exist a short time ago. Meanwhile, the majority continues to think that the only way to make money is to sit behind a desk, work 8 hours a day, and wait for payment at the end of the month. That's not only outdated, it's dangerous. Do you know why? Because the world is not becoming more stable, it's changing faster than ever. Entire professions are disappearing. Companies that were giants 10 years ago no longer exist, and others that emerged from nowhere are dominating the market. Want an example? Taxi companies dominated the streets for decades. Then came Uber and changed everything. Hotels were the standard for accommodation. Then Airbnb emerged. These companies didn't just change sectors, they destroyed old business models. Now the question is, what are you doing to adapt? Because if you continue playing the same game your parents played, you will lose. And it's not because you're not intelligent, it's because you haven't understood the new rule. The world is changing, and those who don't change with it will be swallowed up. And do you know what the new rule is? Flexibility, continuous learning, and multiple streams of income. There's no more talk of depending on a single job for a lifetime. That's a sentence of insecurity. If you don't create new skills, if you don't seek new ways to generate income, you are putting yourself at risk. And here's a shock you may not want to hear. Opportunities have never been as great as they are now. Never. Today, anyone with a cell phone and internet has more resources at their fingertips than large companies had in the past. You can run a business from your bedroom, sell to people across the globe, create something that makes money while you sleep. But most people don't. Why? Because they're stuck in an outdated mindset. They think, that's not for me. I don't understand these things. I'll stick with my job. It's safer. Safer. Tell me, how many people do you know who've been laid off overnight, without warning, without a plan B? Is that security? The truth is, the world has never been so full of possibilities, but it's also never punished those who stand still so harshly. You need to choose, cling to the past, or learn the new rules and seize what's before you. Now answer me, how much of your life is still trapped in the old model? How much do you still believe you need 40 years of hard work to have any freedom? Because if that's your belief, you'll live and die working to fulfill someone else's dream. I want you to reflect on this today. Take a piece of paper and write, what do I need to unlearn to change my financial life? This question may seem simple, but it can open doors you can't imagine. Because to enter the new, you first need to let go of the old. The world has changed. The question is, have you? I remember the day everything changed for me. I was broke, without prospects, uneducated, and without a future plan. I earned $4,000 a year and owed $6,000. If I used every cent that came in, it would take 18 months to pay off my debt. The truth? I was lost. And it was at that moment, feeling hopeless, that someone gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'll never forget the words I heard along with that book. If you do exactly what's written here, you can have everything you want. You know what I thought? That's impossible. But deep down, I had nothing left to lose, so I did it. I didn't believe it 100%, but I believed he believed it, and that was enough to get me started. I started studying that book as if my life depended on it, and it did. I read every word, underlined, wrote notes, and most importantly, I started applying what I learned. And that's when I discovered something that would change everything. Wealth begins in the mind. It's not in physical effort, it's not in luck, it's not in external opportunities, it's inside you. And I started doing something that seemed completely crazy at the time. I imagined myself rich while I was still broke. I started feeling as if I had already achieved what I wanted, even without having anything. I repeated to myself every day, I am prosperous. Money flows to me easily. You might think that's just positive thinking. But let me tell you what happened. My mind began to change. I started seeing opportunities where before I only saw problems. I started making different decisions, and in less than a year, I went from broke to earning $15,000 a month. In 1 month, I earned what used to take years. Now answer me, what would have happened if I hadn't taken that first step? I'd probably still be in the same place, complaining about life, believing that luck never knocked on my door. But I decided to change. And that's the difference between those who achieve and those who only dream. The truth is, life will always give you 2 options. Stay where you are or take the first step towards what you want. Most choose to stay, out of fear, doubt, or believing they're not capable. But I'm telling you, you are capable, much more than you imagine. You just need to decide. And I want you to do something very simple, yet extremely powerful. For the next 7 days, write this sentence 10 times a day. I have multiple streams of income and money flows to me easily and abundantly. Don't just write it, feel it. Imagine what it would be like to have that. Feel the gratitude as if it were already true. And then tell me if this doesn't start to change the way you think and act. Because I can guarantee you one thing. When you change your mind, your external world changes. Always. That was the secret that transformed my life, and it can transform yours too. The question is, are you ready to decide today? If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this: change begins within your mind. Nothing changes on the outside until you change on the inside. If you want to transform your life, you need to decide today that you will no longer accept yesterday's results. That's the key that opens all doors. Now, if you really want to take the next step, the next video that's appearing there is exactly for you. In it, you'll climb another step in your evolution to become 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video.